tonight, my time in the NFL was spent in this division. I have a soft spot for this division. I still follow it really closely, even though it's pretty terrible. I'm also kind of a big market whore. I love the big markets, and that's, this division gets put in Monday night and Sunday night and these primetime games for a reason. They have massive markets. And I've been to games at all 4 of the stadiums. It's freaking cool. Even though FedEx, where they played tonight, a little older than the other stadiums. But I enjoy the history with all these franchises, the passion with all the fan bases, the hatred and the rivalries with all 4 franchises. But I'm pretty sure we watched the 2 worst teams in the NFC East. And I'm actually pretty confident on that, actually. I think the Washington football team, WFT, sometimes when I see WFT, just texting, you automatically think WTF, but WFT, it throws you off. Even though I do believe they should just stick with the football team. And tonight they had the numbers on the helmets. Just go with the W. The W is a good look. But they're screwed. Like Taylor Heineke, as my buddy Hunter Mahan texted me tonight, called him a sloppy Tony Romo. I actually was like, Hunter, that's a good comp. He's like a poor broke man's Tony Romo. But he is talented. He can move around. He's got a little Gardner Minshew to him. But a team that wants to make the playoffs, you got no chance. It's one thing throwing them out in the playoff game against Tampa and just let them do whatever. It's one thing tonight against the Giants on a short week, let them do whatever. It's another thing to play 15 straight games. They have no chance to win a lot with that guy. And they do have talent. As you see, Terry McLaurin, an Urban Meyer guy, is elite. He's fantastic. Chase Young, baller. Washington's defense, little overrated, but they're a solid team. Quarterback away. The Giants got a lot going for them, right? Got some good wide receivers, got some good defensive players, offensive line, pretty terrible. Daniel Jones, it's weird. I would imagine if you just ask the average NFL fan, what do you think of Daniel Jones? I think they would be closer to a bust than, say, a good player. One thing, if you watch the game tonight, he's a very talented player. Athletically, sometimes you wonder, could he play a different position? His arm is strong enough. His accuracy can be very hit or miss, but he's played well, and he's played really well against this team. But you can win with him if everything's perfect. The problem is everything is not perfect. They don't have the perfect team. They have an awful offensive line. They're just not very good, just like this division, and mainly those 2 teams. I think tonight we watched the 2 worst teams in that division. Philly, to me, is dramatically more talented. They're better on offense. Their offensive and defensive lines, especially their offensive line, is really good. It's hard to be good in the NFL in 2021 if you can't protect, because it's a throwing league. This isn't like 1993. We don't get to just run all game long. We have to pass, and consistently pass, not just 3-step drops, 5-step drops, 7-step drops. We put our passer in harm's way more consistently than we ever have in the history of the sport. So when you can't block up front, you have problems. And I know the Giants in the second half actually blocked decently, but no one trusts them. And then you look at Washington, you go, I just don't trust this quarterback. One takeaway I have watching this game, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be in the mix for both these 2 teams in the offseason. And I think if you're the 49ers, you're already kind of looking around, licking your lips a little bit. You hope Jimmy can play well. You have a season where you make the playoffs and he starts the majority of the games. You don't think Jimmy Garoppolo, you put Jimmy Garoppolo on Washington, they're like a 10-win team. Jimmy Garoppolo, you think Joe Judge, if Daniel Jones is a roller coaster, which he has been his whole career, up, down, some good plays, some bad plays, 3 turnovers, then a couple touchdowns, then a couple fumbles. Joe Judge, the Belichick guys, they are not going to mess with that. Well, Joe Judge was there when Jimmy Garoppolo was there. I actually think he makes a lot of sense for both franchises, because both franchises are tough. They're gritty. They're good on defense. They're physical teams. If they just had, they do not, obviously they would take a top 10 quarterback, but those guys aren't available. And neither one of these guys are going to lose enough games. I know the Giants are 0-2, but they're going to win 5, 6. They're going to end up drafting like 9th to 13th range, right? In Washington, when the dust settles, maybe they win 7, 8 games and they're drafted in the mid-teens. And I've watched enough college football to know Trevor Lawrence, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold's, those type players. Hell, there's not even a Jared Goff. I've watched basically every college football game the last 2 Saturdays, and I have not seen an elite NFL prospect. Not even close. I haven't seen one guy that I went, yeah, that guy might go in the top 5. Now, sometimes, as we know, that changes, especially once the season ends, but usually that's a mistake when that happens. There's not a guy that pops right now. So it might not even be a good quarterback draft. And one of the points in last draft was like, there aren't many quarterbacks in this class, so we already knew that. So Jimmy Garoppolo immediately shoots up the charts. Again, I've been, kind of all over the map on Jimmy, good, the bad. He was pretty bad last year for his limited starts. But if he can build off what he did in week 1, stay healthy, be a good teammate, and just help the 49ers win games, obviously they have a big one this weekend against Philly, I actually think he's going to have some value because you can already see there are several teams, a team he has connection to in Joe Judge, I just can't see riding long with Daniel Jones, and then Washington, who's already in quarterback desperation. I mean, they had to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's like 40 years old with like 8 kids, who's been on 15 different teams, and I didn't want him to get hurt because I do enjoy watching him, but he's gone. And who knows when he's come back? He might not. And by the time he does come back, it might be too late. And sometimes with an older guy, it's not like he's been on the team for 5 years. He doesn't have any cohesion or equity built up with the guys. Who knows when he comes back, it'll even work. So they might be so far out of the playoff race, it won't even matter. Now, you could argue in this division, being out of the playoff race, you never really are. But I do think the Cowboys and the Eagles, regardless what happens this weekend for them, I just watch them. They're more talented. They can score way more points. And the reality is in 2021, your offense has to be potent. And I definitely don't love the Cowboys defense. The Eagles defense and the back seven's a little question mark, but their front four is awesome. I think one of those two teams ends up probably in the 9, best case 10 range. I don't see what I witnessed tonight. Neither one of those two teams is winning 9 games. So listen, you can be a competitive team with a good defense, and you can have good running backs and a cool wide receiver, but if your quarterback's a question mark, like, does any of it really matter? And the answer, of course, is no, of course not.